Yeah, then it turned into television program. Good morning. It is 7 a.m. and I would like to call this meeting to order. And let's do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, our Toastmaster is Les Robinson. Do I see him? Oh. Oh. Oh, there he is, I think. Okay. Okay, Les, as Toastmaster, take it away.
All right. Good morning. I had to let the dogs in. Have we done the pledge to the flag?
Yes.
But not the inspiration.
All right, well, we'll do that. Who's got the inspiration? That would be Mike Florio. Was Mike Florio here? Okay. All right, we will skip the inspiration today, and we will basically go over the job holders. Is the WAG person here today? And that would be Michael Licata.
Mike Licata is not here yet.
Okay, well, we'll go to Quilt Master. Is the Quilt Master here?
I do know what the word of the day is for Mike, if that would help, because he told me yesterday at work. The word of the day is adventure.
Adventure, cool.
Adventure, because that's what Doctor Who had all the time. So that's what Mike told me at the end of the day yesterday at work. So until he arrives, I will keep track. Perhaps somebody would like to tell us who's in the room so we know who's there. Because on Zoom, you really can't tell.
No, you cannot.
I think everybody in the room can't always tell who's on Zoom also. So it's
correct.
Good.
In the room, we have Lynn Thornton, we have Jackie, we have Nancy, we have Sylvia, we have Eric, we have Mary, we have Carol Ann, we have Jill, we have Steve, we have Joe, and we have Marty, in addition to myself.
Okay, cool. And is Kate in today?
I am.
All right, you got your Jess for today.
Good morning, everyone. I have 3 quick jokes for us today. The first 2 are interactive and all are Doctor Who. So let's work right at this. We're connecting to the theme. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Who's there?
Doctor.
Doctor Who.
Doctor Who.
Precisely. Also, knock, knock.
Who's there?
Doctor.
Doctor Who.
No, it's just the doctor.
The doctor.
And the third and final is, what do you call a time-traveling cow? Dr. Moo.
Dr. Moo, good one.
Thank you, Les. Back to you.
Okay. Is Stephen Smith in today?
Les, can I stop you for a moment, please? We have a guest that should be welcomed, a guest on Zoom.
Yes.
I haven't gotten that far yet, but who's the guest? Is this Marshall? Is this Marshall from China?
Yes.
Hello.
Looks like.
Hi, Marshall. How are you?
You're on mute.
He needs to unmute. Can we?
Yeah.
Hi, Marshall.
I'm Marshall from China. I'm the president of Hengqin Toastmasters Club and the air director of R2 District 89. It's nice to
Awesome.
see you. The first time I connect the American Toastmasters Club. Thank you.
Welcome.
So, Marshall, thank you for coming. I will tell you one thing. Today, we are truly a time travel club because I believe you guys are 12 hours ahead, correct? For time? What time is it in China right now?
Oh, it's 8 and 5 p.m. now. I calculate how to join your club. And
Cool.
last Thursday, I joined one time.
So today, for
Very
being a
good. Thank
Doctor
you.
Who theme, we are a time traveling. We are in two different times at the same time. Thank you, Marshall, for helping today's theme.
Thank you very much.
Hey,
You're welcome.
before we
Les?
proceed, he's asked about our agenda. I'm not sure if that's password protected on the website. Len, do you know offhand, or would he be able to get to it?
I'll get a copy and I'll text it to him through Zoom.
Okay, thank
Um,
you.
Les, also, apparently no one here has printed out the agenda. So if you could tell the person and the roll holder, that would help all of us here.
Well, today's the Doctor Who, so anything is possible. So if they're not here, we're just gonna make it happen because is Joe Budnick here today?
Yes, he is.
Joe, we're going under Doctor Who. We don't know where we're going, so anything is possible. Are you willing to help us out today? Is he saying yes?
Yes.
Okay. All righty. So today's anything goes Doctor Who, because today is we have to save Toastmasters from a bad agenda. Right. We've got the Marty Johnson. Is he the quizmaster? Is he here?
Yes, Marty's here.
Okay. And we got Nancy for table topics.
Nancy is here.
Okay. I believe Sylvia's here. I know Mark is here. And Jackie is going to be doing the third speech, correct, Jackie?
Correct.
Okay. And then we've got Dave Licata.
Oh, Mary is quote master. Is that true?
We're on the evaluators. We'll get back to quote
Okay.
master. Margot and Beth, you are guys the general evaluator, correct?
I
So we got Dave
forgot that,
Jones.
but yes, okay.
Dave Licata, Margot, and Beth Banks, correct? For
Yes.
general evaluator. Okay. All righty. And which one did we just miss?
Steve Smith is ready.
Okay, Steve. For timer.
I will be the timer today. Timing is important for all of us. All of our times are important. I will be timing table topics at 1.5 to 2 minutes, speeches, which are 5 to 7, unless I hear different, and evaluations, which are 2 to 3 minutes. And I have the pretty colored cards to show up here. I'm hoping to get some assistance to help people online see that.
I'll mimic those colors in the background.
Yes. Thank you. Then that's what I'll be doing today and reporting when called upon to do so.
All right, thanks, Steve. Okay. The theme is Doctor Who. And if we do this right, give me a second. Okay, that is the iconic TARDIS sound. That sound, when you hear that, you know that the Doctor is near. So, for the first ironic question, what was the first English skit back in the 70s that made that iconic sound with the Daleks? Who was the comedian back in the 70s? Does anybody know? Would anybody like to take a guess? Okay, it was Dave Allen at large. Okay. Now, Doctor Who, I hope everybody watched the last 60th special on this. If you didn't, what we're going to basically do is we're going to do a little semi spoiler, but what we're looking to do, very simple, is basically there have been 19 doctors. Okay, 19 doctors. Now, what they have done is through the whole thing is they have basically been changing Doctor Who. Okay, but there are basically 4 important key components of Doctor Who. All right, number 1 is K9. Okay, K9 is an iconic character. He was with Tom Baker, number 1, and number 2, Dave Tennant brought back K9. K9 is like comparable to the Doctor. It was a cool little character, and I have always liked K9. Okay. Number 2 has been the sonic screwdriver. The sonic screwdriver has basically been an iconic tool through the whole Doctor Who universe. And what research I have done is the reason why they gave him a sonic screwdriver is they did not want to give him a weapon. So it gave Doctor Who the ability to fight, but not to be violent. Number 3, as I say, was the TARDIS. And number 4 was his companion. Okay, so very important. Doctor Who has been around for 60 years. The show has had many, many changes. And I think one of the things that you're seeing in Doctor Who is the BBC, and this is just my opinion, has always been a little more front with social stuff, and they've put humor to it. And I think that's what makes it so special. Doctor Who is a very interesting show. And I think with the new, if you've watched it, where they're taking the show now is I think what it is like a spinoff. And that's about the best way to put it. It's like NCIS and then NCIS New Orleans is you're going to have Doctor Who 1 and Doctor Who 2, and you're going to have a very great time for the whole Doctor Who series because I think they're going to be able to go in the past and go in a whole new direction into the future. The other thing I think what you're going to see is the iconic Cybermen and the Daleks. I think you're going to see them come back into the Doctor Who as a new thing. And I think you're going to see the iconic his villain, the Master. I think that is also, they're going to bring him back. I think they're going to reset the whole Whovian universe to get going. So that being said, it looks like I missed the quote master, and the quote master is Mary. Why don't we pass it over to Mary for the quote?
If there is no point in being grown up if you can't be childish sometimes.
Cool. Okay. And that's one thing that Mary touched on very good. So I think probably she's watched Doctor Who. Doctor Who at heart is a child. Basically very, very intelligent. He has a childish attitude. I like that. So it's the adventure of Doctor Who. One other thing I think people, back in the 80s, we can pretty well, most of us in the room can take about one thing is that Doctor Who used to be on PBS. And it was really funny back in the 80s, a lot of kids, kids that went to junior high and high school, we would watch PBS for Doctor Who and wouldn't watch it for anything else. And then we'd all hit up our parents for money to keep Doctor Who alive, which was one of the biggest interesting events of the universe. And then Tom Baker switched over to Peter Davis, and they didn't renew. And I was talking to friends like, we could raise a lot of money, and it never got there because, well, when you're in 10th grade, 11th grade, you have other ideas of raising money for Doctor Who, because raising money for Doctor Who is not cool with the girls. So that was the end of the Lockport Doctor Who saved Doctor Who to bring it back. So, but that has been basically it. But I've always enjoyed Doctor Who because they've taken something very simple, very fun, and they take a blue, I love this, the blue police box, and they can land it. Now, when I believe it was Peter Davison was doing the Doctor Who, the chameleon circuit is something that allows the TARDIS to change around. And they had fun with it for a season. They had it as an organ, a pop machine. They made it kind of interesting. So I don't know if they'll ever do that. But overall, Doctor Who is an evolving series. If you look at from the early series to today, it is 2 different series. So as that being said, I think we will get to the table topics with Nancy. And Nancy, are you ready to start the table topics today?
I am here. I'm here.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm not, I know Doctor Who was on when I was a kid, when my kids were kids, but I don't know much about it. So if you don't know much about it, don't get too nervous because my questions are not that relevant. So sorry. I'm looking to see who does not have a job, and I didn't hear Jill's name mentioned, and I haven't seen her jump up yet. So Jill, would you like to come up? Don't get scared. It's okay. Okay, the Lords have power of regeneration. It can fight off death. They can change their bodies. If you could regenerate, what would you do with it? Jill, and please use the word of the day. Yes, please.
Adventure. I just used adventure there. I'm clear there. If I could regenerate, what would I regenerate as? That's a tough one. Or time travel? Where would I go in time travel? Time travel is kind of interesting because you think about all the ancient civilizations and stuff, and some of them are very, very interesting. But we always hear about the interesting parts and not the ugly stuff. Like how they washed their clothes, if they had clothes. They didn't just throw it into the Samsung washer and let it go through the whole cycle, the ones that actually do the washing and drying all at once now. They didn't use the food processors to chop up their vegetables. And they didn't just put their food in the microwave. So there's all that ugliness of past civilizations. So I don't know if I, go into time travel, I might end up on the ugly side of where I might end up as a slave, not as a royal. And that wouldn't be good. So I'm going to be very stupid and very plain and say I'm not doing time travel. And that's very interesting. The background has turned the tables green. Because it's table topics, yes. What an adventure we have here. I think I'm going to quit.
Thank you for being bold. Okay. Oh. Carol Ann, would you mind doing a table topics? You always can pull something off of your sleeve, your red and green sleeve today. one of the Doctor Who's had a tattoo of a cobra on his right arm. How do you feel about tattoos? And if you had one, would it be a cobra or something else? And use the word of the day, adventure.
I have never had a desire to have a tattoo. I might follow the example of my youngest daughter, who has a couple Disney tattoos. In fact, all of my daughters have tattoos, and I can't understand going through pain that isn't necessary. In fact, my youngest daughter passed out a couple times getting one. It's like, why? But that is an expression of this generation. I'm not sure how they're going to look when the skin starts to sag, but I know, I think I admire my middle daughter, Tara, who got, when her daughter went through surgery and has, the one thing she had, because they checked a lymph node, was under her arm, and Tara got a little tattoo made like a scar under her arm. All three of my daughters, the one that I'm impressed with is they got a little Hawaiian girl like the ones in It's a Small World. And my oldest one had some blue because she likes blue. My youngest one has purple, and I'm trying to think, but there were three, and they're cute little Hawaiian girls. I approve of those, but they kind of went a little overboard with them. And I would never want the adventure of going through having a tattoo done. Madam Table Topics.
Oh, Carol Ann, I'm right there with you. No more pain than I've already gone through. Why, never mind. Lots of beautiful art, though, if that's something you choose. Margot, do you have a job?
Yes, I'm an evaluator.
Okay.
How
Len,
about our guest?
our guest. Marshall, I knew it began with an M. I'm sorry. Marshall, are you there?
Yeah.
Who? It
I
was
just tuned to my iPad.
okay.
Okay.
In 1.5 to 2.5 minutes, can you tell us, I'm going to ask you the same thing. Do you like tattoos? And would you get a tattoo of a snake on your arm if you had one? And use the word of the day, which is adventure.
Adventure. Yeah. Thank you. I am Marshall from China. I'm a public school teacher, and I'm a Communist Party member. So in our city, tattoo of public workers are forbidden. All the teachers, public officials, and soldiers can't have any tattoo. If I have a tattoo, I will be fired. It will be an adventure. I will lose my job. In China, you must follow all the law or rule of the country. We don't like people to have their very special personality. You must, you're better to as seen as most of people and listen to the party and the governments. So only if you have a tattoo, you will be seen as a very bad guy, very bad girl. If a girl have a tattoo, her boyfriend's parents maybe refuse they get married. So if you have a small tattoo, it's better to cover it. Don't let others know. And snake, I'm from Guangdong province. We eat snake before COVID-19, but we afraid of snake. Very few people have snake tattoo, but many people have dragon tattoo, Chinese dragon or tiger. Oh, thank you very much. It's different culture.
Thank you. And so tell me that it would be a real adventure if you had a tattoo as a school teacher. Just say adventure. Okay, okay, I did not, sorry. I was listening so carefully to the story. And in the United States, there are some hospitals and places that don't allow doctors to have tattoos. I don't think our state is one of them. I've worked with many doctors. Okay, we had 3 contestants and we need a timers report.
Thank you. I'm happy to report all 3 contestants qualified. Jill got in at 2 minutes and 4 seconds. Carol Ann was really pushing it right at the edge at 2:15. I should have thrown something in there. Marshall made it easily at 2 minutes and 5 seconds. Thank you.
Yeah. And a word master report. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and our guests this morning. All 3 of our table topics users qualified using the word this morning. Thank you very much.
So for those in the room, please fill out your ballots. And for those on Zoom, you see a table topics poll come up. Please select one of those and we will hear back from our Toastmaster. Les.
Thank you, Nancy. Now, one of the big things that's going to be happening is they're bringing back the Christmas special. Now, I do a Christmas special, but I can do a little mock off if this happens correctly. So give it a second. We have is Santa. So this is our Santa dog. This is Santa Ava. Yes. This did not go off that well. Okay, getting back to Doctor Who. There's a lot of iconic characters in Doctor Who. And I think the 3 iconic characters besides Doctor Who through time and space, and I would like to ask Joe, after I get done, if he would chime in on that. I think the favorite companion or character would be Captain Jack Harkness. I think favorite companion would be Sarah Jane. And I think the non-favorite character would be K9. And I think Captain Jack really took a Doctor Who to a whole new level. It gave it a little more humor. It was fun. It made it a little more gritty, and it gave it a lot more adventure. And then they took Captain Jack and rolled him off into Torchwood, which I believe they had 3 or 4 seasons of, which was just as good a series as Doctor Who. But as all good things, they ended Torchwood. They did bring Captain Jack back about a year or 2 ago. And it was one of the most interesting things. He appeared and disappeared. And I thought the series was going to go with something with Captain Jack and the Doctor, and it didn't go anywhere. So it's one of the things it's with every TV show. You think something great is going to happen, and then nothing's going to happen. So I think with the reformat, with the going forward, I wonder if Captain Jack will be there, if they will bring in K9, but I'm not sure. But if we could pass this over to Joe for a minute, if that's okay. Does he have a favorite character or companion of Doctor Who? If that's okay, Joe, to do? Because I know you're a big Doctor Who fan.
Yes,
All
I was a
right.
huge Doctor Who fan growing up. I was in love with his companion, Sarah Jane. She was the woman of my dreams. And the TARDIS that he had was so cool. It was bigger on the inside than it was on the outside. And I'm thinking, I want one of those. Think of all the closet space you could save with that. Now, Doctor Who was on every night, like he said, on PBS. And it was, I believe, on 6:30. But that was a problem because we had dinner at 6:30. Well, fortunately, the living room was right next to the kitchen. And while we're eating, I would have the TV on. Now, my parents would be sitting there trying to have a conversation during dinner, but I would be paying attention to Doctor Who. Joe, my mother says, this is dinner time. We're trying to talk. I'm like, Mom, I'm having an adventure through time and space. That's more important. We're going to have to wait till this is over with. But I really loved the show. It was really cool. And every time I'd watch it, I'd imagine myself going on adventures with the Doctor and his companions and that sort of thing. And the Cybermen and the Daleks used to freak me out all the time. And the Doctor Who's one of his biggest villains was Davros, the creepy guy in the chair. He created the Daleks. And there was one episode where he went back in time and he was trying to save a little boy from this minefield. He was desperately trying to get to this little boy. And he says, it's okay, I'll try to save you. And he asked the little boy, what's your name? My name's Davros. That's like going back in time to assassinate Hitler when you think about it. The Doctor had a moral dilemma. Should he let this poor innocent boy die so the Daleks would never be created and all those people wouldn't die? Or would he save an innocent child because the kid was innocent at that point? He chose to save him. So that was an interesting episode. But I love Doctor Who. It was a great show, and hopefully it'll come back on because I still enjoy it to this day. Thank you.
Now that's going to lead me into this. I've got to cue this up. This was one of the first Doctor Who spoofs. Just give me a second here. Let's see if it can be done. Now that was not Tom Baker. That was Dave Allen. That was one of the first Dalek spoofs with Doctor Who in the history. It was actually BBC that had done that. So the Daleks, which this was unplanned. I mean, it was planned for me, but how Joe teed it up is the Daleks are the #1 villain against Doctor Who. Doctor Who has always defeated the Daleks. And one of the things is when Doctor Who, and actually this was part of my thing, is Doctor Who saved Davros. And I think what they did, and that was 4 doctors ago, or 2 Doctor Girls, depending how you count it, is what it did do is I think it gave it the ability to change the timeline with Davros. Now, they did do, when they brought back David Tennant, they changed it, had like a clamper to the suction cup, but their belief now, instead of having Davros in the chair, they're going to make Davros walk. Now, I think the way they handle it was different. I'm not going to get into the political satire of that, but I think what it does is it shows that time travel shows a change of A can affect B. So Davros for the past 60 years has always been in a wheelchair. And now Davros, I think going forward for the series will be walking. So it's a whole new onlay or a character recreation or a transformation. And I think that's what people have to do is that time travel shows can change. And that's what people have to understand. But I think where they're going in the new direction, and I'm going to not give true spoilers out. I think it's going to give Doctor Who a whole new adventure. And I think with them bringing in the toy maker, he was like, they have the White Guardian, the Black Guardian, and the toy maker, and he kind of did a little reset because he said he kind of took out the White Guardian in the back, the Dark Guardian, which were kind of like the balance of the yin and yang, and he was kind of like the middle. And they're able to bring back the Master, which they put him in a tooth, which I thought was funny. And I think everybody in this room, most everybody saw Flash Gordon from the 80s when they picked up Ming's ring to bring it back to if they ever did a Flash Gordon 2. Same principle. I like that. Now, the only thing is I'm not exactly sure what they have done to Gallifrey. Gallifrey is the home of the Time Lords. And that has been an ever ebb and flow changing through the series. So I'm waiting to see where it goes. So I think the new Doctor Who going forward is going to be adventurous. I think it's going to be, you have to take it as a mindset as something totally different and evolving into something wonderful. So now I would like to have our speakers come up and do their speaking part of the presentation. And I believe our first speaker is Sylvia.
Who's the evaluator?
I am the evaluator. I'd like to introduce Sylvia if I could. First, I want to say I am also tattoo free. My father was in the Marines and he has some kind of tattoo. He's 80 years old that looks like Godzilla. So that's why I would never get a tattoo, because eventually, as mentioned, we get old and our bodies change, and so do the tattoos. Sylvia is going to take us on an adventure with her speech this morning. It is Innovative Planning, Level 5, Leading Your Volunteer Organization. Timer, it is 5 to 7 minutes, and the purpose is to apply the skills needed to successfully lead a volunteer organization. So please welcome Toastmaster Sylvia, Being in Compliance, Sylvia.
Thank you, David. This morning, I am going to give you a little presentation, a history of being in compliance. As some of you know, my job with the HR, I also do all the compliance work with all the insurances that the YW have: liability, workers' comp, disability, health insurance. It's just to name a few. The YW also has 9 school sites that we have staff, employees, I shouldn't call them staff, employees, part-time and full-time. We have Carolyn's House in Niagara Falls, which is homeless housing for women and women with their children, domestic violence survivors. And we have a 24/7 shelter for domestic violence, rape crisis service hotline, goes through the hotline of the DV. We also have Universal Pre-K, John Pound School, another one in Lockport. And we have Tremont Street, a 12 single studio apartments that home women who also domestic violence. So what I'm going to talk about this morning is the compliance with workers' compensation. It has been an adventure. Nancy could attest to this because I recruited her. Back in probably COVID, right after COVID, domestic violence, or I'm sorry, not domestic violence, workers' compensation decided to change their guidelines. Before it was something like 5 years, if you had many claims and dollar amounts, you were considered a risk employer. So that means you would have to do an assessment, risk assessment, safety plans, and all that good, fun, adventurous stuff. Well, like I said, somewhere in COVID time to 21, they changed the guidelines. They went back to 3 to 4 years. And if you had more than 2 claims in that, or I should say, if you had 2 claims in that 4 years, 5 years, you were going to be in risk. How do the factories do this? How many people get hurt in factories and claims? It's crazy. So I was saying, okay, why are they, and then they are the Occupational Health Safety Health Administration, also known as OSHA. Why are they calling on us saying we're a risk? The 2 claims I've had in 4 years wasn't even at our sites. One was at a school. This time of year, well, actually it was January, gets dark at what, 3 o'clock here in Western New York? And the weather changes very quickly. After school program, employee was leaving, ice on the sidewalk. She slips, hurts her knee, has knee surgery, out the rest of the school year. Returns back in 23. That was very expensive. I get it. The second one, I just still can't get my hands on it. But this lady retired, walked through a glass plate at the police department door somehow. And of course, she went to emergency room, had some follow-up doctor visits, and that put us at risk. What the heck? Why are they putting us at risk? So to be in compliance with them, we had to hire an outside contractor who does evaluations, risk assessments. He came in and visited with me, good hour, and started firing off these questions. And a lot of them I answered was, uh-oh, uh-oh. First thing out of his mouth is, who's on your safety committee? And I looked at him and said, safety committee? Uh-oh. And he said, do you have a safety plan? Oh, yeah, we have a safety plans. Well, where are they written? I don't have that written down. Okay, so I could see I got a green light here, so I'm going to move this along. So his assessment was next 3 months, get that safety committee going, get this plan goals back to him for us to move forward. So that's what I did. I couldn't do this by myself. So I called on like a Nancy at the shelter to be on the safety committee, and 3 other ladies and the maintenance crew. They got it together. They picked up and ran with it. They got the safety checklist going for every site. We did trainings. We did active shooter trainings, AED trainings, Narcan, CPR, which the school age programs do that anyway. We did sexual harassment in bystander trainings, which is required, but we always do those. And we're looking in the future of more trainings. This committee has done this. This is the committee I just asked, and they rolled with it. Happy to say, as of, I think it was, August 26th, I get verification from our workers' compensation carrier, plus the state OSHA people, and said, hey, you're in compliance, keep going. And we will pick up on that in January. It's a busy time of year. But everyone now has a binder like this that has maintenance logs, safety plans, fire drills, accident reports, emergency phone numbers, policies. And I know I'm going to go over time, but unfortunately, one of the policies we had to put into play because it happened to us twice in year span, the YWCA protocol in response to untended death. Unfortunately, we had that in 2 of our housing departments. This was an eye opener. This was actually going to help our future staff, our future tenants, and just get us out of this mess and see what's going on and educate everybody at the YWCA. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. All right, for evaluator 2, it looks like we have Dave Licata, which will be evaluating Mark Campos. And I do not have, I've just got pathway, so I do not have a title. So I wonder, Dave, do you have the title and the time of Mark's speech?
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and our guest, Marshall. Marshall, welcome. I know I might be evaluating today. I'm very pleased it's Mark Campos. I don't have any outline. I don't know where he's going, what he's doing, which is frankly a little out of character for you, Mark. So if you want to fill us in and give us the title, that'd be great.
Well, David, I did populate it on the website. It is a level
I was
3.
waiting for a special one that said to Dave.
Okay, well, it's a level 3 elective in pathways, the engaging humor pathways, connect with storytelling. My time is 5 to 7 minutes. And I guess I'll introduce myself. My title is, by popular demand, The Hangover.
Wow.
Thank you, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome once again our guest, Marshall. We are happy to have you join us. A number of months ago, I gave a speech where I talked about the annual Guys Weekend I host at my cottage down at Sunset Bay. During that speech, I alluded to an adventure that took place during one of those weekends, and I would like to share that story with you now. In 2022, my sister-in-law had just gotten engaged once again, and I decided to invite my future brother-in-law to join us for Guys Weekend. His name's Jim. Jim's a tree guy. He clears trees for a living. He's a lumberjack. Let me paint a picture for you. Burly guy, huge hands, lots of hair, tattoos. He's from northern Wisconsin. He's basically Canadian. He even sounds Canadian. He says A in a boot. He was joining us just for the first night of Guys Weekend because he was at his annual fishing trip up in Minnesota, was on his way back, decided to join us, and he was eager to get back to his fiance. Awfully sweet. So that Friday night, he arrives at my cottage, and we're doing what we usually do. I painted the picture before, bunch of guys together, eating, drinking, playing some yard games, and torturing each other mercilessly. And at one point during the evening, it seemed like we were about to bring this in for a nice, smooth landing, where we might not get too crazy and we wouldn't venture very far and maybe go to bed at a reasonable hour. But no, the guys love going to the bar. They absolutely love going to the Sunset Bay Beach Club, which is a block down the street, and there's usually bands playing, so on and so forth. So off we go to the Sunset Bay Beach Club as a group. And there's a Springsteen tribute band playing, and it's a good time overall. The band's pretty good and people are dancing and everyone's having a good time. And of course, the guys I'm with, they're buying rounds of drinks, shots, exercising generally bad judgment. Of course, I'm exercising bad judgment because I'm drinking everything that's being purchased from me. And at some point during the evening, I run some self-diagnostics and I conclude that I need to go to bed. I am overserved at this point in time. Mercifully, about 11 o'clock, the band stops playing their final set. Everything has to wrap up by 11 o'clock at Sunset Bay so as not to disturb the neighbors. At that point, I make a beeline for the cottage to go to bed. Now, when I say a beeline, it probably wasn't like this. It was probably more like this, a bit of a zigzag to get there. My next recollection is waking up and two things become apparent to me. A, I'm still alive, so that's a plus. And B, I'm in my bedroom in the cottage. That's another positive. I must have brought it in for at least a decent landing the night before. I get up to go to the bathroom, as guys often need to do. And as I'm coming back, I'm surveying the scene in the cottage. Now, it's a very small place. There's lots of guys and there's bodies everywhere. Who's sleeping on a recliner, a couch, an air mattress, a futon, bodies everywhere, lots of snoring. It's a really wonderful thing to see first thing in the morning. And I do a quick count and I realize that I'm one short. But I don't really think about it too much. There must be some plausible explanation. Maybe somebody fell asleep on the front deck or wherever. There has to be a reasonable answer to this problem. And I go back to sleep. A little while later, I wake up and there's other stirring in the cottage. And I started to talk to one of my neighbors who was there and counted once again. And I realize I'm short and I'm missing Jim. Where's Jim? I asked my neighbor, where's Jim? I don't know. I go, well, he's got to be here somewhere. And my answer was, oh, you missed it last night. You missed the fight. Now, fellow Toastmasters, it's a remarkable thing how many thoughts the human brain can have in a split second. But in that split second, I'm thinking, oh my God, I've lost my future brother-in-law. And somehow he got into a fight with one of my neighbors and I've got to defuse this bomb now. What am I going to do about this? And then I was reassured, no. None of us got into a fight with Jim. We almost got into a fight with other people. Well, what the hell happened? Well, as I was making my beeline to the cottage, this group of friends and future brother-in-law thought it would be a really good idea, as they saw a house that was having a campfire going on, that maybe they would just show up uninvited and just join the party. And they hung out there for a few minutes and then they came to the conclusion that maybe we're not really welcome. These people don't seem to want us here. And they decided to leave. Well, in the act of departing, one of the neighbors, a younger guy, either accidentally or intentionally walked up these people's cornhole boards. Now, fellow Toastmasters, if there's a such thing as a bro code, this is a serious breach of bro code to desecrate someone's cornhole boards. Needless to say, people squared off, yelling and screaming, but ultimately cooler heads prevailed. There really was no fight, thankfully. But here I am. Where is Jim? I start texting. No answer. Call, ring, no answer. Text again. It goes on for about an hour, hour and a half. And I'm genuinely concerned. His truck's not there. Where the hell is he? Finally, I give in and I call my sister-in-law very sheepishly. And I'm cringing, thinking how this conversation is going to go. And she very pleasantly answers the phone and says, hi. And I said, hi. And she said to me, you're looking for Jim, aren't you? Yeah. Do you know where he is? Yes, he's sleeping here. See, apparently Jim was so disturbed by one of my other neighbors, kind of a big guy who sleeps with a CPAP machine. Evidently, the CPAP was making far too much noise for Jim. He couldn't sleep, so in the morning, he decided to just head back to his fiance and go to sleep there. So fellow Toastmasters, there's 3 takeaways here. Number 1, don't misplace your guests. It could be problematic. Number 2, don't let any of your guests desecrate anyone's cornhole boards. And above all, don't drink too much. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mark. Sounds like camp. Okay, our third speaker and our evaluator is Margot, and our speaker is Jackie. Margot, do you have Jackie's information?
I certainly do. Good morning, fellow
Oh,
Toastmasters.
great.
Thank you for
Thank
that
you.
advice, Mark. However, you do realize I will be leaving on my cruise soon, so I may have another Margarita Monday as an adventure. So Jackie is preparing at the lectern. She is in the dynamic leadership path, level 4. Her purpose today is to give a speech about a change management plan, and her title is Where Your Path May Lead. Her time, Mr. Timer, is 5 to 7 minutes. Please help me welcome our club mom, Jackie, with Where Your Path May Lead. Jackie.
Thank you to my evaluator, and good morning, everyone. Our paths can change, they can deviate, they can go off the rails for a while, but you keep moving forward. Many years ago, I was working at the YWCA in a variety of positions and not feeling like this was where I was going to spend the rest of my working life. So the city offered a civil service test, and I decided to take it as a measurement of where I was, what my skill levels were. Take a seat at the high school at an unfamiliar desk and wait nervously to receive the little packet of questions. We had 3 hours to complete this test. I began shaking in my boots, but the questions were, alphabetize this list of words. What? Is this a test for 2nd grade? No, that's how it went. Alphabetize many different lists of words, and then the next part of the test, put numbers in numerical order. So I continued. Now, the purpose was to complete this test as written, and then if you got a passing grade, you would take a typing test. And that would determine whether or not there were any positions that you'd qualify for. So I did pretty well, and you came back for the typing test. You had to type 35 words a minute. Well, that's pretty much what 35 words a minute leads to. The end result was a job in the office of the City Parks Department, which was at Outwater Park with a great big window overlooking the park. And it was 2 blocks from my house at the time. I thought I was going to work there until I died. But when I began the job, the atmosphere in the office was a little strained, and I wasn't quite sure what was going on. It turned out there had been someone in that position on a temporary basis who couldn't pass the typing test. All she had to do was pass the typing test, and she would have had a permanent position. It just didn't work out for her. But because she was angry and bitter about losing the job. She fabricated a lot of information about me that she shared with the poor accounts clerk that was in the office, who was so apprehensive and afraid of me when I started. It took quite a long time for her to kind of calm down and realize that I was not Cruella de Vil, and she didn't have to worry about me starting trouble and trying to oust her. Those things happen. I persevered in the job. It was kind of a fun job. That big picture window looked out over Outwater Park. It's a beautiful park. We saw deer running up through the grass. We saw flowers and trees. It was a wonderful atmosphere for your working life. Sadly, the city decided we no longer needed a parks department, which is why a lot of the trees in the city are falling down. The parks department head was a forester who cruised around the city and checked on trees and took care of things. My job included taking angry calls from the populace and dealing with them, but it also included scheduling all of the ball diamonds. That was fun. I got to meet a lot of great people. I got to choose the bathing suit for the swim guards at the city pool and deal with all the kids that came on. Our employment would swell in the summer because we took on the crew at the pool. We took on extra crews at all the parks. Back then there was a very nice recreation program at every park in the city. Kids could go for the whole morning and spend lots of time there. It was nice. But the city in its wisdom decided we no longer needed that department, and they ended it. What did that mean for me? Out the door. I ended up getting another city job, so plans change. I stayed friends with that account clerk who was so apprehensive of me. We still see each other and spend time together. But the moral of the story is plans change. You go through, you go around, you go under or over, you juke to the side, whatever it takes. Your work life will continue. You will find a way to keep on going. And at some point, the adventure will go on. Thank you. And I go.
Thank you, Jackie. Okay, now I will ask for a timer's report. That's Stephen Smith. Quiet.
The hecklers in the audience? What was that? We didn't do so well today. Sylvia ran over 7 minutes and 52 seconds. Mark ran over 7 minutes, 36 seconds. Jackie qualified 6 minutes and 36 seconds.
Sorry about my dogs. We just did a delivery. So I would like to call the evaluators up, and our first evaluator will be Dave Jones.
Thank you, Mr.
Dave, are you ready to do your evaluation?
I am. Thank you,
All
Mr.
right.
Toastmaster.
And I
good
know
morning,
we'll have the voting come through in a minute, so let's start the evaluation.
masters and guests. Sylvia, thank you for your speech. You started behind the lectern, sort of a statue, but sometimes that's okay because we don't always have to use the stage. We don't need to use it just to use it. We only use it when it's appropriate. So I thought your particular speech was fine standing there. You had good hand gestures. We could see them from behind the lectern, had good vocal variety and projections. I think overall it was a good move. And then you started your speech as explaining your job, the responsibilities. You kind of put things in perspective for us so that we could understand where you were going with your speech. And part of your job was workers' comp, which for me personally got me interested because I've been in workers' comp for 25 years now. And I think what you were trying to reach for, I don't know if you used the word, but experience modification, that's when you have a certain number of claims and then that increases the rates of your workers' comp. That's just a little side note. Sorry, I'm having a hard time reading my own handwriting. So what you did as far as your project goes is you started a safety committee, and with you and your team, you became compliance with the insurance company and OSHA. So that was the overall theme of the project and your speech. So you did get to where you needed to be as far as getting into compliance. Now, room for improvement. I think you could have engaged the audience more because workers' comp and insurance in general, for most people other than myself and maybe Lester, is very boring. So maybe you could have asked people if they've ever had to engage with insurance companies. I know because of HIPAA, you can't ask them if they've ever had a claim, but you could have asked if they had an experience just to pique their attention, get them interested in it. And obviously the other room for improvement would be time management. You came in at 7:52. I don't know if you're DTM, but until you're DTM, and of course we all know DTM stands for Don't Time Me. That's why Dave Licata will have 10-minute speeches even when they're 5 or 7 minutes, because it doesn't matter when you're DTM. And finally, you had a prop. I thought it was great. You had your written binder, which you didn't have before. You showed it to us. And finally, I'd just like to thank you for keeping your employees safe. So back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Dave, thank you very much. Well, we're going to be having voting pretty soon come up.
Les, we only had one speaker qualify. There was no need to vote.
Okay, that's okay. All right, next thing we will have is Dave Licata to come up. Dave, why don't you come up and do your evaluation?
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our special guest, Marshall.
We have another guest, Vincent.
We have another guest.
We do.
Oh.
He has said hello in the chat and he is observing off camera. Vincent.
Oh, okay. Fine.
And also Marshall's nephew, Ives, is a third guest today. So he was here. We had a little one for a moment and then he left.
Just left.
My son Michael will attest to the fact that I need a new audience every 20 minutes, and now I have a worldwide audience. So I'm loving this. All right, Mark Campos. What I liked, he pulled us right in real fast, especially the men here, because we've all been in that kind of a group. Not so much myself, because I still have 8 little tiny nuns running around in my head that won't let me go to parties like that. So, but the identification, the scene he set, he pulled us right in. And then the obvious, you couldn't resist it. You had to throw in the A's and ums and how this guy reminded you of a Canadian. That was genius. That was really, really well done. He created characters. He did a nice job. Now, where we have improvement would really be tough because he did an outstanding job today, but it'd be inappropriate for him at work to set up a stage in the corner of his office, invite his coworkers in to be the audience, because I'm sure they have bigger fish to fry at the phone company. But that if he was doing such a good job at stand-up, he should have stood up. So that's my my only complaint. He had technical problems that weren't his fault, but there was some times we didn't hear and sadly it was at the kicker moment, you know, when he was throwing a real good bit of humor in there. So great gestures today. He, with his hands and his eyes, his face, he did a fine job. And now we can rest assured, because he has recently given a speech on retirement, that he will have a great post-retirement job doing stand-up comedy. I will be his agent and I will get my cut. Mr. Toastmaster.
Dave, thank you very much. Now we've got Margot that's going to be evaluating Jackie.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. So Jackie took us on a journey today of a job she held in the past. And since the idea was what changed and how it reflected her, she did that beautifully. I love the adventure of that test, because most of us, myself included, when it comes to a test, what are they going to tell us? What are the questions? Am I going to be able to answer it? And to be shocked for the test as simple as that one, in one sense, was a relief. But I'm sure, Jackie, you were thinking, what more is there? I love the humor you expressed in that portion of your speech. You talked about the challenges of your new jobs, of the previous person and what expectations they created. You talked about the changes. You talked about all the different parts of your job. What was interesting, though, to me, was you did everything with your normal kindness, because as you talked about being seen as Cruella de Vil, but yet you weren't. You talked about the positions are now not there and what the challenge. At the same time, you brought us all in to a way of enriching our own lives to make us think about, how would we cope with that? How would we learn? What could we learn from you when we're in this position of change? So what could we do to improve this speech? That's the real challenge with this one. I love the picture window, perhaps a picture of what you were looking at, perhaps a fake test book, instead of just talking about the test, having a little notebook you could flip through, something to sort of take us farther into your speech. The other thing I loved about your speech was you ended with the lessons you've learned and something we could all take with us. So Jackie, you've enriched our lives with this speech. You've showed us how to give a speech. You've talked about changes in your life. And as the club knows, it was a journey, an adventure. She had challenges. She did it with kindness. She's going to improve every time she speaks, and she enriched our lives. So Jackie, thank you very much for taking the time to give us a speech called Where Your Path May Lead. I look forward to your next speech, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Margo. Now, one thing I want to bring up here is, if done correctly, are these the pictures of all of the doctors. Now, with Doctor Who, they're actually missing a couple of them. There was a clone of David Tennant. There was the War Doctor. And then there was the other Doctor who was part of the Gallifreyan Command on the Peter Davison. So, just to touch into that, now I see that we have the timers report ready to go. So we will bring in the timers report.
Thank you. I have better news this time. All 3 evaluators qualified. Now, I have a little bit of trivia here. I watched Doctor Who in the 60s. Yes, it goes back that far. TARDIS is actually an acronym. You know what it stands for? Time and relative dimensions in space. Thank you.
Steve, thank you, because I was going to talk about what the TARDIS stood for next. So, wow, this is 2 times through this meeting is Joe set me up. And, well, Steve, I'm not going to get into explaining the TARDIS again, but it is bigger on the inside than on the outside. So we will now go to our general evaluator, and then we will do the reports.
Thank you, Les. Well, I wasn't really prepared this morning because, yes, I did look at the agenda days ago. and then forgot I was the general evaluator, so I didn't even bring paper to write down on. So this, as David Jones had a little challenge reading his own writing, I probably will have the same challenge here. For our evaluators, of course, we had evaluators that are longtime Toastmasters. They know what they're doing. All three used a great sandwich approach. I loved David Jones's review of Sylvia. Yes, suggestion not to go over, but that happens when you have a really good topic like she did and you had a lot of information to give us. I loved the ending on a high note, David. That was very good. David Cotta, little surprise here. You were really not prepared any more than I was prepared. I don't think you really got information from Mark that you needed to get on. Go on the website. I know it's a challenge for you. Mike, we may need to, have you work with your dad on how to do these things. Suggestion there, or maybe not because you'd kill him. Okay, gotcha. So just a little suggestion there. Make sure you go on the website. Margot, of course, you were very prepared with Jackie's information. I loved your general review of her speech. It was very good. And yes, it was hard to make suggestions for the mom, but you did come up with some really good suggestions. Of course, great sandwich approach. My suggestions and evaluation of Les. And my first thing is an agenda. If you are on Zoom, maybe this is something we could start doing, that you get someone who is coming to the meeting to print the agendas for the people in the meeting. It helps me, I know, to have that agenda printed here. So if you are on Zoom, planning on being on Zoom, ask someone to get the printed agenda into our meetings. That would really help the rest of us. Les, I think we've talked about this before. It also, for those people who really like to be symmetrical like me, it's the math brain, I guess. Center yourself on the camera. I really wanted to continually through the meeting move you over a little. So just center yourself. I loved that ahead of time you knew Joe was a Doctor Who fan and you had him come up and give a little speech really about Doctor Who. I thought that was a little different and I really liked that. You do have to remember to introduce the evaluators before the speakers. You did very well with the second and third. And really focus. You didn't know that two of the speakers didn't qualify. So just pay a little attention there. But overall, really interesting. I've never watched any Doctor Who, but you did make it very interesting for those of us who didn't really have a clue what you were talking about most of the time. So that was very good. Do you want to call for the job holders or do you want me to?
Beth, you can call and then we'll circle back and I'll end up the meeting.
Okay, that sounds good. Now I have to remember who are the job holders. Mike Licata is our WAG master. So he can tell us how the word adventure did. We're all on an adventure, correct? Hi.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. So I'll get the word adventure out of the way. Joe used it once, David Jones used it once, Les used it, Sylvia used it twice, Mark used it in his speech, Jackie also used it in her speech, Margo used it twice. Now, some of the other things that I noticed is we continue to get creative with our filler words. Jackie used "and" 4 times. Mark used "like" once. Sylvia used "and" 4 times. She also misused the word "that." She had Sylvia had 2 so's. So yeah, we're all guilty of it. So maybe rewatch just your section of the speech when you give it when the meeting goes up on YouTube. Mark, I thought your speech was great this morning because you use a lot of very descriptive language when you described your future brother-in-law as a lumberjack. Jackie, shaking in my boots, I thought was a great descriptor phrase as well this morning. Is my role, and that is my report as the Wagmaster, Madam General Highway.
Oh, my. Okay. And moving on, let's see now. Marty, you said? Quizmaster? Be kind to us as the teacher.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. I do have a few questions to see how well the class was listening this morning. When our guest Marshall was called on, what technique did he use before he started speaking? Or what did he do before he started speaking?
He stood up.
He stood up, right on. And I sincerely miss that. And another club I belong to, we all sit down. And it's nice to see online when someone stands up, because that is the preferred body position when you're speaking, to stand up. Next question. Doctor Who is also known as who? Who is he known as whom?
The doctor.
Smith.
What is his first name? Starts with a P.
Oh.
Peter Davis, right?
Davis
Is that
is
right?
one of the
Peter
doctors.
Davis.
That's one of them.
One of them.
There've been a
There's
lot.
19 of them,
One of
Marty.
There are quite a few. And to be quite honest with you, I have lived a sheltered life. I was born in 64, and I know the program started in 65, 63, and it ended in 89, according to Google. And I never watched one episode. So I'm alive and well today, not having watched it, but I learned all about it from the meeting. So thank you, Les. When Sylvia was speaking, what committee did she say that she was reminded of that she would need at the YWCA? What special committee? A safety committee. Mark Campos was talking during his speech. What year was Mark's sister engaged when they were having the party? Approximately. I think it was 2022. What career or field was Mark's brother-in-law in?
Forestry.
Forestry, right? Okay. And Jackie worked at what park in Lockport? Outwater Park. Class, you all passed with flying colors. We had a wonderful adventure today. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. Okay, and we're going to have Carol Ann come up as our presiding officer for our winners and for our 50-50 club split. Thank you.
I have the winners. Okay, the winners for today on Zoom, our best evaluator is Margot Bittner. And our best table topics is Marshall on Zoom. And our best speaker is Jackie Kenny. Jackie.
Yeah, it's your split club tickets, everybody.
Let's not forget to ask our guests their opinion of the meeting.
Yeah, that was my next thing, Mark.
Last three numbers for the split club, 941.
All right. Steve Smith, the winner today.
No, I don't. I stopped collecting them after the first year.
Okay, Les, if you'd like to ask our guests.
I will do that. Marshall. Is Marshall still here? It looks like he still is.
Hello.
Marshall.
Hello.
So
Hello.
what did you think of the meeting today, Marshall?
That's pretty good. This is my first time join the online meeting abroad. I've never traveled abroad and never left China. So I like this club very much, and I want to become your member because I want to study in Canada or the US in the future to pursue my PhD. But my English is not so good. I want through the online Toastmaster club to improve my English. So in the future, I can adapt the study in your country or Canada. Thank you very much. I'm so lucky to meet you and join this meeting. Thank you.
Marshall, thank you very much. Okay. All righty. And basically today was
And
the
Vincent, we have a second guest. Vincent, are you able to talk? I see that you're there still. Would you like to share anything about our meeting or yourself, how you found us?
Yes, hello. Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Vincent Cawley. I'm out of Niagara Falls, actually. I met Dave Licata last week, and we were talking. So thank you, Dave. Hello. And this is great to sit in. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to sit in and just learn and see the thought process and the critiques and some of the speeches I mean, I do a lot for my church, speak in front of church and politics and everything. And just good to be able to come and sit from the professionals and see how they're evaluated by everyone. So it's been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vincent, for coming. We saw Vincent at Seamus last week. David, you are an excellent ambassador for Toastmasters. Back to you, Lester. Let's do a toast too. Les, back to you.
All righty, thank you. All right, let's do a toast for the morning. Toast to everybody. Have a great day.
And next week is our holiday party sponsored by Dr. Stevens. And at this time, I would like to adjourn our meeting if there are no other announcements. One announcement.
Fellow Toastmasters, be sure, if you haven't done so already, make sure that all of your pathway projects are uploaded in Basecamp and Club Central, all your projects that you worked on, because there's a new educational system coming up and they want everything as much as possible. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you.
So you can get credit for your pathway.
Marty,
Jill.
I got a question.
Thank you. That's all.
Hey, Marty, I have a question.
Yes.
Marty, if we do it online, okay, at Toastmasters, and we get completed, we now have to print it and upload it to Toastmasters?
Jill,
No.
would you restate the question? Jill's on her way up.
All right. When you get done with a pathway, when it's completed, now you have to, I thought it automatically reported.
No, once you complete it, it's uploaded that you're done. Once it says, once you complete it and it's up to the VP of E to process it, then you're done. Does that answer your question?
Yes, you have to submit it. Make sure that you submit everything. And
Submit.
And tomorrow is December 15th, and it's going to change over to a new in January. The biggest thing is if you use Pathways to save your evaluations and save forms, those are going away. So you'll want to download those. But the instructions are on many emails that have come out to us. So check your email or reach out to me or Nancy or Jill. Go ahead. Did you have something about this or totally separate?
I have the copy of the letter that maybe went out to everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
It should have gone to everybody.
Yeah. Well, there's the one that says you may already know that Pathways Learning is moving to a learning management system. This one was November 15th. And you need to check that all your education have been in both base camp and Club Central. And I have been identified as someone who may not currently have everything submitted in both places, which I don't know if everybody else got this letter. I don't know, but I'm going to give a copy of this to Nancy and see if she can figure out what to do with it, which she's kind of. Nancy doesn't have a permission to approve as yet. We have a gap in stuff going on, I guess.
You should, but I've been approving them as I go. So we'll make sure that everybody, so if you have one that you've been sitting on and you want it, it should count. Like if you've already finished it and you just haven't submitted it, be sure to do that also, like Marty had said on Pathways. And if you do have any questions, please reach out to me and or Nancy about that. And yeah, it should be pretty seamless. It's not too big of a deal. If you didn't, we'll figure it out on the next round once they figure it out in January.
Meeting adjourned.